Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So we are like firmly in Marvel summer movie season, so I wanted to do a new Captain America Civil War video all about Bucky. He got name dropped big time during Avengers Age of Ultron, but we really don't know what he's up to right now. We do know that he will be part of Captain America Civil War, but as far as we know, he's still glitched out just wandering across the countryside. He's in like Bill Bixby Hulk mode, just wandering down the highway. During Winter Soldier, he had started to regain his memory, but then Hydra would shock it back out of him. But now that he is free of Hydra, presumably he's starting to remember everything, and it's sticking. He's doing that hero thing where he's like, I can't handle all the emotions of the terrible things I've done, so I'm just gonna wander off into nowhere. I'm gonna have to reference a couple things from Avengers Age of Ultron, so just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen that movie yet. I actually think, as of me doing this video, it still hasn't been released in a few countries, which kind of sucks. But here we go. So during Avengers Age of Ultron, Falcon shows up, during the big battle, and you have that typical scene where the Avengers go, where you been? You almost missed all the fun. And Falcon said, I've been working a missing persons case. That missing person is the Winter Soldier. He basically did the same thing at the end of Winter Soldier that the Hulk did at the end of Age of Ultron. I can't handle my emotions, so I'm just going to take myself out of the equation. I'll have to do like a separate video about the Hulk at some point. I know that there's a bunch of questions about what he's up to right now. He is still on planet Earth, for those that are asking, just like the Winter Soldier. Nobody is in space. But now we need to jump to the Winter Soldier comic book. I mean, it was like an arc in the Captain America comics that deals with Bucky's time after he presumably died, then got frozen by the Soviets, then unfrozen to assassinate people all the way up to present day. The movie changed a whole lot from the comic book. That's nothing new, but they did a pretty good job of explaining in montage, like all the big assassinations that the Winter Soldier was supposed to have done, like JFK. But in the comic books, it's actually way cooler because Marvel can do whatever characters they want. Like they associate him with the assassination of Wolverine's wife and the attempted assassination of his son Daken. He paired up with Black Widow early in her years after graduating from the Red Room. There's all kinds of awesome, Marvel push-pull videos to be done between the movies and the comics. I have like a Doctor Doom, Doctor Strange video that I'm probably going to do pretty soon too. But in the comics and in the movies, Bucky slowly starts to get his memories back, slowly starts to remember that he is Captain America's friend, although he still kind of remains something of a fringe character. What I think the movies are going to end up doing is during Captain America Civil War, Bucky will have a similar arc to what he had in the Civil War comic book. Meaning that he's kind of on the outskirts, still trying to run from his past as the Winter Soldier, trying to escape Hydra from capturing him and using him to their advantage, but also trying to help Captain America without getting, directly involved in like the Cap versus Iron Man situation. The main storyline of the movie is going to be all about this conflict between Cap and Iron Man, but you have all these new villains and all these new heroes swirling around in the background. You also have this third party, the Winter Soldier, or Bucky, however you want to think about him, that's not really connected to any of the big groups. So like the Bucky arc in the movie will probably be like its own small little thing. He's mostly important to the character development of Steve Rogers, to like the arc of that character specifically. There's this really funny thing in movies like Age of Ultron, like the really big Marvel movies, where you have like a bunch of small movies inside one big movie. Like you could make this Captain America Bucky storyline its own small movie by itself, but instead of that, they're including it as an arc in Captain America Civil War. The same thing is true of the Black Panther character that they're introducing, and the new Spider-Man character also being introduced in Captain America Civil War. Whole bunch of stuff happening inside that movie. Just avoiding the biggest Civil War spoilers for those that haven't read the comic, Bucky tries to help Cap by running off with his shield, but he ends up getting recaptured or captured by Red Skull and Dr. Faustus that try to brainwash him again. Brainwashing is a recurring theme with the Winter Soldier's character. Eventually he escapes, gets recaptured by S.H.I.E.L.D., hates the shit out of Tony Stark because of what happened during Civil War, wants to kill him, but then Tony surprises him by telling him that Captain America wants him to take up the mantle. So this is the beginning of the Bucky Captain America arc, until Steve Rogers eventually takes back the mantle. That happened during the Captain America Reborn storyline. The funny thing about that is that part of that story served as inspiration for the first Captain America movie, even though it came after Civil War in the comics. The reason for that is that it was kind of a rebooting of the Captain America Steve Rogers character. Like if Marvel ever ran into a situation where they needed to recast the Steve Rogers character, like Chris Evans didn't want to re-sign his Marvel contract, they would probably use that Reborn storyline. Chris Evans right now is going to be done with his Marvel contract after Infinity War Part 2, but Kevin Feige did say that a couple of the Avengers characters had re-signed their contracts, so they'll continue to be their Avenger characters through Phase 4. He didn't say which ones, but there are at least like 3 or 4 that will be done after Infinity War Part 2. Like Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans are like the 2 really big ones. Marvel is really good about changing stories to fit with, the way their business works. So, if there's a new Captain America, they have like 14 or 15 different choices that they could use. Sebastian Stan Bucky just being at the top of that list. That's why I think, even if Chris Evans does re-sign, we'll still see like an alternate Captain America at some point between Captain America Civil War and Infinity War Part 2. Where like someone briefly picks up the shield until Steve Rogers takes the mantle back, during Infinity War Part 2. Big comeback movie. Fun fact, there have actually been like 15 different characters in the comics that have been Captain America, including Steve Rogers. There's Isaiah Bradley, first African-American Captain America, William Nasland, Jeffrey Mace, William Burnside, Bob Russo, Scar Turpin, Roscoe Simons, John Walker, Sam Wilson, that's the Falcon, he's Captain America right now. Bucky Barnes, obviously, became Captain America after Civil War. Dave Rickford, Danielle Cage, who's actually the daughter of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. She shows up in like this alternate future timeline. So she's like a super strong Captain America, where like the shield is more of an ornament. Like she doesn't need it for protective cover because her body is super strong. It's really funny. There's an alternate universe version of Scott Summers that became Captain America for a brief period. And then there's a What If storyline where the Punisher became Captain America. Like a really stabby, dark version of Captain America. Obviously the movies are way simpler than the comics, so the logical choice for the next Captain America, if there is going to be a new Captain America, would be Bucky. It's just a really easy redemption arc to put him on, until Steve Rogers is ready to take the mantle back, whether it be Chris Evans or a new actor. And I do feel like Chris Evans will re-sign his contract. I feel like the big Marvel actors, even though they don't make a ton of money from these Marvel movies, do get to do a lot of really inspirational charity work. Like when Chris Evans and Chris Pratt did that special contest during the Super Bowl where they both dressed up as their characters and went to a bunch of children's hospitals. It's stuff like that I think will keep these guys playing those characters just because, they're able to do a lot of charity work, even if they don't earn a lot of money. Typically, most of the money that they make are from the other films that they make because they become famous during these Marvel movies. So you get paid a ton of money by other studios to do their big blockbuster movies. Like Chris Pratt, Jurassic Park, probably getting paid way more for that movie than he got paid for Guardians of the Galaxy. So speaking of crazy movie to comic book interaction, I still need to do a Baron Zemo video just because he's, rumored to be part of Captain America Civil War, but he's a really interesting comic book character that straddles the line between, mystic arts and science, via Hydra. I also kind of want to do a Doctor Doom, Doctor Strange video along those lines, so I might roll all those characters into the same video, so be sure to subscribe to get that. I'll probably post it next week, if things are a little slow this week, I'll post it later this week. I feel like Marvel's dipping its toes into movie characters that straddle the line between science and magic, and in the Marvel universe, the best example of that is Doctor Doom. Problem is, Marvel can't use him in the movies, so I feel like Baron Zemo is like an easy stand-in for that. Along those lines, if you haven't been reading the Secret Wars comic book, you need to. It's a lot of fun. Instead of the usual, grandstanding Doctor Doom, it goes full-blown God Emperor Doom. This summer is like the best time to be a Doctor Doom fan. I'm also working on a Flash Mirror Master video that I'll probably post later tonight, but while you guys wait for that, you can click here to learn about the rest of the cast in Captain America Civil War. There's a lot of people. And you can click here to learn all about Hank Pym's history in the comics. Don't forget, Ant-Man is coming up next month. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys tonight. Everybody, let's high five.